Welcome everybody. It's really humbling to have this many people live for a start. I mean, we had over 125 people register for it, so that's mind-blowing and humbling to begin with, and then to have this many people come along and want to be part of this is even more humbling. And previously I've been probably like 8 out of 10 anxious before these types of events. Some of you know my story, have followed my work, have come to know that about me, my struggle and learning to manage my anxiety. But for this time, strangely, when I was thinking about it last night and this morning, I wasn't feeling almost anxious at all. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm feeling nervous just because there's so many people, but not nearly as anxious. And I was trying to figure out why. And I think it's because previously, up until this moment in time, I felt like all the pressure was on me to have the answers, to have the stories to share, to have the proof points for you all. But I'm really grateful and really humbled that there are so many amazing people using this game now that can sort of take a little bit of that mean I don't have to wear that on my shoulders so much. And it's testament to the 3 people we've got today, which I'm really excited about introducing you to: Erika, Anna, and Claire, and the incredible work they've been doing with the game. And I think it's folks like you 3 and so many more who are in the room here today, which have meant that I'm not nearly as anxious as I used to be about this, because there's some unbelievably talented people doing some incredible work with this game, which just blows me away. So I'm thanking you all for coming along, helping me manage my own anxiety by you all doing amazing work, ironically. And I'm looking forward to sharing these stories, or having these amazing elephant riders share these stories with you today. So what I'll do just before we really kick into it, just show you quickly the ground rules, so to speak. And everybody's already abiding by these anyway. I guess a lot of people have been to previous events, but if you're in the main room, just keep yourself on mute, please. We'd love to see your faces, so keep your camera on. Obviously, if you can't, for whatever reason, that's okay as well. Add your questions into the chat box, pardon me. And then when we do our breakout rooms, because we're going to do 3 little breakout rooms over the next 90 minutes, you can obviously have your off mute for obvious reasons, and just let everybody have a chance to be heard. Try not to dominate the conversation. I know that takes a bit of self-monitoring, but please do that. And all the breakout room stories are confidential. Zoom won't allow us to share the breakout room, to record the breakout rooms anyway. So also keep them confidential. So those are our short list of ground rules. And before I introduce you to Erika and Anna and Claire, I'd love for us to do a quick little check-in. Put your hand up here if you've got your cards with you, or hold your cards up if you've got your cards on you. Wonderful. Now put your hand up if you don't have cards. That'll give me another little feel for, has everybody got cards? It looks like everybody's got cards. Only one. A couple. Penny, Jill, that's okay. I'll share my screen then and put the cards up on the screen for us. What I thought we'd do for the quick check-in conversation is, it's Tuesday. So why don't we change this up and do a weekly intention setting activity? And what I'm going to ask you to do is pick 1 black card and 1 white card for how you want to feel for this upcoming week. So the white card will be a card that you don't want to experience, but you know you might experience this week. And I'm going to share my screen, so then those of you who don't have your cards, you can pick. Ignore the question at the top about thinking about the past week, because I've just changed this in the last minute. Pick 1 black card and 1 white card. I'll switch to the white cards in a second. We're only going to give you 2 minutes to pick your black and white card. Hopefully you didn't get cut off in the middle of a story there. Apologies if you did. Put your hand up if you met a new elephant rider or somebody you hadn't met before in that meetup room. Oh, great. That system's working then. Wonderful. Amazing. Okay, so we're going to do a couple other breakout rooms, not activities though, but just small little breakout reflection pieces today and the rest of the meetup. But it's time to introduce the guest elephant rider presenters that we've got for you all today. So first up is Erika. And I think Erika is known to a few people in the room here, which is really cool. And people have done some work with her in the past, which is great. But Erika became an elephant rider, I believe, Erika, in October last year. Hopefully our system has got that right. And then went on to become a silver elephant rider just at the start of this month, potentially. Was it in April this year? And maybe in December last year, she emailed me with a little screenshot of a newsletter that you had written for Auckland Council, potentially, and with this really amazing story about how they've been using the game. And it just blew me away. I was just floored and inspired by the story she shared and the work she'd been doing. And I was like, wow, we need to share more of this with everybody, because the level of inspiration I got from that, I was like, imagine if some of you had access to those stories. So from that moment, I was like, when can we get Erika to come along and present at an Elephant Rider meetup? And we're fortunate that she said yes, and she wanted to come along and share today. So Erika's going to share her stories with us over the next 15 or so minutes. And thank you so much, Erika, for coming along. The Elephant Rider meetup is yours.
Oh, thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here. Although I don't think I've got some of your anxiety about being here, and it's going to be good because there's some great stories. And once I get going, I'm super passionate about it. So let me please share my screen with you. And they're not pretty slides, but that's more about helping me remember the types of things I'd like to talk to you about. So thanks again, everyone, for coming. And I just want to try and move through the next slide. This is what I tend to talk about. I tend to talk about when I'm in a work setting, who I am and what I've done and the clients that I work with and the certifications that I have. And for such a long time, this is how I turned up to work. It was all about the 25 years experience, and it's all about delivery. But more recently, it's about the people, because yes, we absolutely need to deliver. We need to deliver to our clients and to our customers. But how can we do that in a really fun way? We spend so much of our lives at work, and if we're not bringing our full selves to work, then I think we as individuals really miss out, and the teams really miss out, and our customers really miss out as well. So I work for a little company called Frank. I'm in the office at the moment, and I'm the head of transformation, and it's very much about transforming the way organizations and teams work and how the people within those teams can work better together. And what I love about the ECD is it brings our human side to work. And these are the things that I think are probably more important than the experience and the certifications and qualifications. So I'm a mum of 3 awesome kids, been married for 17 years. I've got a 90-year-old mum. I've got friends. I'm a netball coach. I've got an olive grove. I love making sneakers. And when we can pull all that sort of our real selves and we can bring that to our teams, I think it's just such a richer experience for us personally and for us professionally and for the people that we're actually working with and delivering to. And so I really like, Jeremy, how you talk about humanizing our workplaces, because we are all people and people do all the work. So if we can pull that together nicely, then we can have some great workspaces doing some great work. I was first introduced to Jeremy through the Wellington community. I used to travel down there every week, and it's a very small community. And I'd started hearing things about, oh, this guy, Jeremy Dean's doing stuff about talking about emotions and feelings at work. I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. And so, yes, I've kind of felt like a bit of a stalker because I'd been following Jeremy, but never was able to kind of get onto one of the courses because I really wanted to do it in person. I love that the power of meeting people in person and being able to play with the cards. COVID put a bit of a stop to that. And it was when I was locked down with my children and my husband, having a lovely time, but thinking, my gosh, the teams I'm working with are feeling really disconnected, and I'm feeling really disconnected from them. Thinking, I really need something that we can do remotely to pull people back together and get that sense of teaminess and actually get some more energy into what we're doing. And I first played the game with a girlfriend who came round. She was in our bubble. She wasn't having a very cool time at work. And I was talking to her about the ECD and got quite excited. We'd had a few wines and I said, do you mind if I pull it out and we just have a bit of a chat about, how you're feeling at work and how you want to feel? And it was literally over a couple of glasses or something nice. And I pulled the cards out and I said, just have a play with these. Have a look at these black ones and tell me how you do want to feel at work. And on the back of that, we put a little bit of a plan together in terms of, well, what are you going to do to feel more of the good stuff? And how are you going to reduce those feelings that you're not enjoying about work? And so that was my first use of it. And I thought, oh gosh, my teams at Auckland Council, I think, could really get some benefit from it. And I facilitated quite a few workshops in my time, but I didn't want to jump straight into it. So I thought, practice on my kids. So these are my kids around the kitchen table. And it was a super interesting experience. So my daughter's very tactile. She's 13. So she loved the feel of the cards, and they are such beautiful, beautiful cards. Whereas my boys, 10, 11, they're tech natives. They love technology. So I was practicing some of the online remote stuff with them. And I was asking them questions around, well, how have you felt learning at home, during lockdown? And we'd just been told in Auckland that we were, not going back to school for the next term. And then my question was, how do you want to feel? What can we do to make it better moving forward? And in terms of my most profound moment with the game, it was the kind of comments that these cards enabled my kids to have the conversation with me. So normally when I'd ask my kids, how are you feeling? It's either fine or bored. That was a standard conversation around lockdown. But the cards actually gave them a language, and it gave them words to explain those deeper feelings. And it blew me away. And it was actually, quite confronting as a parent to find out how anxious they were about it, how much they missed their friends and their cousins and their schoolmates. But what we did, and what I love this stuff. What I love about the emotional culture canvas is it's not just talking about this and expressing this stuff. It's what's the plan? What are we going to do? And so we actually sat down and go, okay, we're here for goodness knows how long. How are you guys going to feel more connected to your mates? And we did things like then set up Zoom calls. We had family pizza nights. We did, the online house parties and that sort of stuff. So that was really amazing. And then I ran a couple of sessions with my teams at Auckland Council, and it went surprisingly well. So guys, you just need to jump in and give it a go, because people wanted to talk about this. People wanted to feel connected. And although we were all remote, we really wanted to make some eye contact, have some discussions that weren't just about deadlines and budgets, and reconnect as a team. And that was beautiful. And as part of that, then the lead team was, I want a piece of that too. Can you run a workshop with us? And so Penny, who's on the line, hey Penny, she was my co-facilitator. And we came together with the lead team and said, hey, how do you want the people on your teams to feel? How do you not want them to feel? And then how do we know? And again, I love that later stage, talking about it. Yes, we want them to feel these really good things. We don't want them to feel, the not so good stuff, but acknowledging that they might. So what are we going to do to help them through that? And I think that's really, really powerful to be able to have that kind of action plan off the back of it. I'm sorry about the photos of me, but what I found when I was doing my reports for the silver and bronze is I didn't like taking photos of people in the remote sessions, because it just didn't feel safe. It didn't feel right to put their faces on, even if I'd asked them. So what I've got, and I had to really think a bit creative about how do I actually show that I'm running these workshops and getting the value from them. So I thought something that people were interested in was how we use the technology. And I'm not great at tech, and I can see Andrew's on the line and he's helped me with some of my sessions as well. And we tried things like RetroTool. So that's a great retrotool.io, I believe it is, because you can get that feeling of Post-it notes. So again, I love Post-it notes and Sharpies. Lots of our workshops are great when they're in person with that. We were trying to find a way we could get that feeling that you were writing things up on a board, ticking them, or dot voting. So if you're familiar with dot voting, especially when you're online, you can give people a certain number of votes and they can choose the feelings that are most important to them, that they feel the team needs to be successful. And so we played with a bit of the tech that was really cool. And then more recently, just before the Easter break, I ran a workshop with a number of teams down at the Waikato DHB. And they've been going through, as I guess all of us are, lots of change, but they've had some pretty tough times with dealing with COVID and then a big cyber attack. And what I did with this group of people is do a bit of I call it my mashup of the emotional culture canvas and what we call is an agile team charter, and taking, I think, the best of both bits, but really tailoring it to the needs of the organisation and the team. So playing with the cards, again, it was online, but working through what are the desired feelings and how do we recognise and reward all that good stuff. And then the stuff that we don't want, but acknowledge it's probably going to happen because there's all sorts of change and craziness going on. How can we support each other through that? How are we going to feel safe to put our hands up if we're feeling overwhelmed or anxious or whatever it might be? And so we created, it was a 2-part session. The first part was mainly playing with the cards and talking about how we do and don't want to feel and how we want to be successful together. And then the second part of the workshop was actually, what are we going to do to make this happen? When are we going to come together to review these charters? When are we going to celebrate our successes, and what does that look like? So yeah, I'm loving how it's got so many different ways you can use the cards and create lots of different discussions and action plans around it. So not a pretty slide, but some questions that I thought people might be interested in. So thank you, Jeremy, for the prompts. Some people have asked me how I've had teams or organizations buy into the game. I'm like, what do you mean? Why would you not want to do the game? And for me, that's really where it starts. I don't understand how anyone would not see value in this. And so what I do is, and I take it from a 2-pronged approach. Sometimes as a consultant from Frank, we can offer this. And in my experience, it's been a great way to get teams together and really get them to that high performing level very quickly. Or it could be sometimes actually as a team, we've got some new people working together. They're working in a different way. How can we best set them up for success? Actually, let's find out from them what they need and what they want and how we can help with that. So I haven't had any pushback. I guess if it was trying to be a half-day session, that might be a struggle for some people in terms of the time commitment. But then when I felt like we needed a 4-hour session, I broke it into 2-hour sessions 2 weeks apart. And that feels less scary. And people could find, time in their diary to have 2-hour sessions rather than a 4-hour block. In terms of who the game's helped and how, I guess me for starters, the conversations, like I say, with my kids was incredibly insightful in terms of how they were actually feeling, and it helped me kind of wrap some support around them. Also with me working with the teams, actually getting a better insight into how people were feeling, how they were feeling about coming to work, or most often in my case, not coming to work, working from home, and how that remote environment was impacting them. I've had people come up to me afterwards and go, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I really felt like I couldn't bring that part of myself into the virtual office. It was really great to connect on a much deeper level than we tend to with these people on my team. And often you do team building exercise and they might feel a bit twee, but this can be really powerful. And it's up to people to share how much they want to. So it's really important to create that safe space where people feel they can share. And that's some of the things that I learned from going to other meetups and from listening to people's stories and from doing the course with Jeremy. Share your stories first. And I think that by kind of leading by example and saying that, hey, it's totally okay to have some of these not so good feelings, but then what are we going to do about it? So personally, it's helped me, it's helped team members. I'd like to think it's helped my kids. And I think it's helps the organizations as well. And so this is something that I also kind of talk about in terms of, developing or creating a high performing team. It's based on trust. And, if you look at some authors like Patrick Lencioni, the 5 dysfunctions of a team, it's all based on a foundation of trust. If you look at the Aristotle work that Google did, how do they get their high performing teams? It's all based on people trusting each other and understanding where we're coming from and the different parts of us that we can bring into the workplace. And so sometimes if you're getting any pushback from organizations, it might be helpful to reference some other kind of case studies. But I do genuinely believe that it helps the people, the teams, individuals, and the organizations, because if you're building high performing teams, people want to be a part of them. They're feeling that value from delivering to customers or to whoever it might be. They're getting that really positive feedback. Then it helps the organizations as well. And I truly believe too that it helps with retention of your good people when you're actually taking the time to ask them how they're feeling and what they want to do or how we can help them be more successful. And I've even seen this helping attract new people into organizations. Oh, I hear you've been doing the ECD. Man, it really feels like you care about people. Yes, we do. Come join our team. We might not be to pay as much as other people, but we care about you. We want to know how you're feeling. We want to set you up to be able to work in really good, flexible ways. So I love it. Love it. Helps everybody. I guess my biggest lesson was how free people can be when you give them a language. It's actually really easy for them to talk about emotions and how they're feeling. And I guess that was my biggest surprise. I was expecting some pushback from people in different teams. And I had some people say, oh, Erika, it's a great idea, love, but no one's going to talk to you about how they feel. Often they said, oh, it's a cultural thing. A lot of these people aren't going to want to express what they're feeling for fear of some potential, recrimination, whatever it might be. But no, once you create that space, you lead from the front, people are sharing their stories, you talk about it as a game. And I think that's really important as well. It's a game, it's fun. We just want to find out what you need and how we can help you and how we can come together. Sorry, guys, keep an eye on the time. So yes, it's my biggest lesson was that people, once you start, they're very open to share. So a couple of top tips for remote workshops, which is where I've had the most of my experience. Tailor the game for your audience. So I started off with the pack that Jeremy had put together, and it was great. I wanted to change it up a bit with asking different questions, using the cards in different ways, tailoring the emotional culture canvas. You've got total ability to do that. Please remember to acknowledge where the inspiration came from. So always support Riders and Elephants and drop them a link and talk about, Jeremy and the team, because that's super, super important. And I've also found to have a co-facilitator is important. For me personally, tech scares me. So I don't want to be worried about that. I want to be focused fully on the people, on the conversation. We're talking about how they feel and their emotions. That's pretty intense, quite personal stuff. I don't want to have to be worried in the background that I'm typing the right words in that they're saying, or that I'm filling out the canvases. So I've been very fortunate to have super co-facilitators to be able to focus on that, so I can focus on the people. Practice with the tech. I had practiced and we were using a particular tool with the people that I practiced with. That was great until we got to the real live workshop and people who were dialing in from the office didn't have access to it. So if you, like anything, have a backup plan. There's some great tech that you can use out there for remote workshops. Make sure people have access to it. And then my last point, just get out and do it. Okay, the real value is in having these conversations. Okay, it's not having a beautiful set of cards sitting in your cupboard. So please, I just encourage you, connect with other people through the community, through LinkedIn. If you've done the course, there's some great stuff on Slack, but please just get a good person if you want to help co-facilitate your first one. Get on out there and do it, because you'll get real value from it, and so will the people that you're working with. Okay, so that was me. I don't know, Jeremy, if you want to go into Q&A now or to leave it till afterwards.
We might leave the Q&A till after, Claire, if that's okay.
In that case, thank you, everybody.
Amazing. Erika, amazing. I did a virtual round of applause, but also an in-person one. Thank you so much. Amazing. I didn't actually know that your most profound moment was using it with your kids during lockdown. That's really cool. And because everybody knows I didn't design this game to be used with families, but that being a byproduct of it continues to inspire me and blow me away. It got me thinking maybe the key to workplace culture is actually our family life and having these conversations at home. So when kids get to whatever workplace they end up in, they're more familiar with these conversations. I love that you started small. You ran one workshop and got people talking, because I've talked about that, and that's how this game came to be, because that's how I approached it as well. So I love that you've followed that approach, and it's the last thing I thought, which was really amazing, was just that notion of taking the time. Like, you've embraced that, and a lot of people have such big time constraints, and it's like, we don't have time for this. We'll create reasons not to have time, but there was an article we shared recently, either in the Slack group or on my LinkedIn anyway, about reframing well-being. Some other people in our community shared it, and there was a piece in there talking about relational pause. And I thought that was a really amazing thought, and taking the time, like you've been doing, Erika, with your teams, as a relational pause, the moment to stop and connect. If we can't make time for that, we can't make time for the work, I don't believe. Yeah. So amazing. Thank you so much for sharing those incredible stories. If you've got questions, type them in the chat box. You can type them in now, or we'll get to do an actual Q&A after Claire and Anna present their stuff as well. But yeah, thank you, Erika. Truly inspiring. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip the camera, so to speak, back on you all. So we've just heard amazing stories, bright spot stories from Erika, but I want us to be able to share our own little bright spots now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break us into small groups again, probably groups of 4 this time, just from a time perspective. And we're going to answer this question together. So describe your favorite recent experience with the ECD. So think about that question. Think about your most favorite recent experience with the ECD. And in our breakout rooms, will give us probably 10 minutes again. So it'll be give or take 2.5 minutes each. If you don't have a recent experience with the ECD, that's okay. That's absolutely fine. Hopefully some other people in your room will have it. If nobody in your room has one, maybe share the challenges you've had trying to use the game, because there'll be some shared challenges there potentially as well. So that's just a slight reframe of the question. So that's our challenge. We'll go into new rooms. Hopefully we'll meet some new people, and we'll give ourselves 10 minutes to share your favorite recent experiences with the game. Thanks very much for sharing those stories. Hopefully you were inspired or curious, thoughtful about what you heard. Wow, in our group, I'm blown away. We heard stories about putting the ECD as a surprise agenda item on a board meeting from Kate. That was phenomenal. So I've been talking about this a lot to people. If you're worried that they might be cynical or apprehensive about it, just pull it out and have a play. And that proved to work. ECD for flats, for flatting, student flats, that's happening as well. There could be a new canvas somewhere in there, I think, Julie. Yeah, so amazing stories. Hopefully you had you learned some stuff and maybe got some ideas within your group as well. I think that's, for me, one of the most inspiring things is hearing all these things that I never even imagined, and hopefully the stories you're hearing as well, giving you ideas for how to hack the game. And Erika, you mentioned how you should hack the game, or you didn't say hack, but pull it apart and use it in different ways. And yeah, hacking the game is where the power is within this, I think. Okay, so we're on to our second speakers, plural. So we've broken the rules here, and not that there were rules, but instead of having 2 individual speakers, we've got Erika, and then we've got Anna and Claire as a dynamic duo together. And so Anna and Claire have joined the Pro Elephant Rider program a few months ago, and are going through the ECD certified consultant training. And Anna, I think you became an elephant rider in May in 2020. So quite early on. Does that sound about right? Yeah. And then Claire later in the year in December. So I'm assuming, Anna, you raved about it, and Claire was like, I need to get in on this as well.
Oh, and she likes to follow my lead, Jeremy, don't you know?
Yeah. And so Anna and Claire work at Goodstart. You've seen the profile, and I invited them both to share together because they're going through the program together. And I've been blown away by the work they're doing in the space of early child care and helping the people who care for small people as well. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing your stories. So Anna and Claire, the meetup is yours.
Awesome. I'm still fangirling over Erika, if I'm really honest. So I really enjoyed it, Erika. I'm still fangirling over here. So all right, I will share my screen, Claire, because we both know that's a strength of mine and not of yours in recent workshops we've done. If anyone wanted to know, Claire and I have high banter levels, so
very high. All good. And she's right.
Oh, bear with me. I'll make sure I've got the sound on there as well, Claire. Okie dokie. So Claire, I'm going to throw over to you to kick it off.
All right, thanks, Anna. So yes, Anna and myself have been using the emotional culture deck with Goodstart Early Learning. And if you don't know a little bit about Goodstart, we are for children not for profit, and we are Australia's largest provider of early learning and care. And quite different. We're known as a social enterprise, so we're not a charity, but what we are is we exist to improve lives of children and families, but at the same time it's important for us to make a profit to be able to keep investing with an absolute attention to inclusion of all children. So that's a really big remit of ours. But just to get you a little bit of a feel for who we are, we're just going to show you a very short video, which is our recent TV advert that we have here in Goodstart in Australia.
Every day, we're reminded of what we're truly for. We're for not letting anything stop early learning. Because we're Goodstart. We're for always being there and being at our best. We're for staying close and connected with our centre families. We're for helping them understand the world around them. We're Goodstart. We're not for profit, so we can do more for children.
And so just to give a bit of a feeling for the size that we have, our footprint, as you can see in Australia, is quite large. We do have currently 664 centres. We support 670 children with alongside 56,800 families. And that relationship between children and families is integral to the way that we work together. And our Goodstarters, our people team, we've got over 15,000. And you can see a bit of an idea of the split across the organisation. Queensland, it isn't a Queensland-based organisation, and it has got the biggest footprint there, but you can see there's also some real size in our other states as well. And that one, who we've worked with. So we've been having a play with centre teams around our emotional culture deck. We've also been rather playful with our Goodstart leadership team, who are our senior leaders in the organisation, and also our centre support teams. And I think one of the things that we've really worked on is that we talk very much about being playful with children, and that's how they learn, and actually using the emotional culture deck as a way for being playful to talk about emotions. If it's okay to talk with children about emotions, enabling them to label emotions, it's important that we also do it as adults. So I'm going to throw this back to Anna.
Yeah, so we thought we'd actually just talk through two examples of how we've used the ECD and share from that. So the first one we're going to share of how we've used it with one centre team. So we've worked with a team in Evanston Park in South Australia. And if you're not familiar with South Australia or the particular area of Evanston Park is in a very low socioeconomic area. So we do ensure a lot of our centres are actually positioned in those low socioeconomic areas, so we can actually best support the children based in that area who are often experiencing maybe high levels of trauma, come from different family backgrounds, and so they have the best start of life alongside obviously all kids in Australia. So Evanston Park, low socioeconomic area, and we have, as an organisation, a load of tools to support our educators with supporting those children from those backgrounds. We don't actually, if we historically look at our portfolio, have the same amount of tools to support the educators, because the people that are in this centre, working in this centre and other low socioeconomic centres, are coming from the same background as well. So we need to actually sometimes pivot and work differently with the teams that maybe need a bit more support. And I had the centre director from this centre reached out to me, and this is a while ago, but, you know, really aware that her team needed more support. And in her words, her ideal goal was to create a really safe space. So when their team members came to work, they could leave their home life at the door, but actually come into a safe space. And when I went on to work with this team, that made more sense. You know, we had, you know, educators coming in that were in abusive relationships. We had educators coming in and their partners were, some partners were in jail, some partners were actually had serious diseases. So there was a lot going on in this team, and she wanted to create this really safe sanctuary space for her team, as for the children in the centre as well. So really obviously wanted to work on how they felt coming into work. So it was kind of a fantastic opportunity to work with the ECD and with this centre. So how we went about it is over the space of 3 evening team meetings, we mapped out how the team want to feel at work. So first off, obviously looking at their desired feelings, and then understanding their undesired feelings as well. And so we did this obviously work with the team. I always made sure after every workshop we did with them, I created a visual for these guys to work with, you know, because it's not a virtual space. Our centres aren't virtual spaces. Everyone is physically there. And so the use of these kind of tools is still very much needed in our centres, as it's a face-to-face environment and very tactile. So we decided that the team defined how they want to feel and how they will not want to feel, and then obviously went on to make commitments to each other. But the gold didn't happen in these sessions. I mean, there was a lot of, it was very raw. I was quite taken aback by how the process and the emotions that were coming to the surface from the team and the bonding that happened in these sessions. But the gold didn't happen in the workshop itself. It's actually what happened outside. And to support the centre director, I had with the centre director, first off, it was fortnightly, then moved to monthly one-to-ones, coaching sessions with her to support how she will carry this work forward, because she's got the feet on the ground. I was going to help her to facilitate, but she was going to have to create the momentum and make it stick, essentially. So we had those one-to-ones, and I'll show you something that was quite awesome that came out of these. On the right side of the page there, you'll see you've got the tracking canvas for the emotions, but how this team decided to use their defined desired emotions was fantastic. The centre director decided to make them KPIs. So when she gave to her leadership team particular projects, oh my God, my headset's going to die, particular projects that for them to deliver, rather than just having kind of key KPIs met, what she said is that actually the team have to feel these desired emotions over the course of you launching this project. So the assistant director had to launch key educator relationships. And throughout that, she had to continually check in with the team on how they were feeling through the course of the program and launching and using this new tool. So she used it as a KPI, which was an awesome way to actually really stay true and focused on how people feel, not just what they're doing. So they did that. And then also throughout the course, I encouraged the centre director to continually use me almost like a journal point. So pop me an email when you've had a win, when you've had something happen in your centre that's you see that kind of room for improvement. And these were just some, I've just taken some of the emails that she sent me just to show actually where the move on, not just with the whole team, but with some individuals that she was working with. One of the really big wins from this and knock-on effects was that this team had high incident and safety incident rates in the centre. So and the reason where that was coming from is because there wasn't the relationships across the rooms. People were just focused on their own rooms. And the biggest knock-on effect that she was really proud of was actually the reduction of safety incidents happening in her centre, because there was more helping behaviours across the rooms and across her team, because they wanted to deliver those feelings. So the fact that actually focusing on feelings and emotions actually improved the safety of this centre was a huge win. And they went on to win a national award for safety within their centre. And she accredited the work with the ECD as one of the points there. So that's huge to win a safety award, a goodie, we call them, out of the whole network, was a huge achievement for us. I'm still so proud of Christian and her work there. So that's a little bit of an insight of how we've worked with a centre team. And now I'm going to throw back over to Claire to share how we've worked with the centre support team, but our own team, the learning team. Thanks,
Anna. So yeah, our learning team, we've just got a bit of a snapshot here. It is actually not a normal day. It was our Christmas get together, and actually all virtual. So a lot of our experiences with this team have been virtual. I haven't seen Anna in 2 years. As many of us have been working in this, well, how did we bring this to life? So we introduced this recently to the learning team to get them a real sense of as we've restructured and how we might come together. So in that space, what we've been doing is introduced the emotional culture deck and been playful with them around each of the sessions. So if you want to move forward, Anna, for me. Again, what we've done with them is created that virtual canvas for them to work with and what emotions were coming up for them. And if you can imagine it, we brought together under one umbrella our regional RTO, our learning team, and also the team that was also looking after our learning hub. So they were all siloed and we wanted to bring everybody together in this one space. really different personalities, backgrounds and experiences. So how did we have a shared language around emotion was important. So working through the deck, we're now at the space where we've got the emotions have been called to. And I think one of the biggest things for us was when we were in one of the sessions that one of the team were like, oh, why do we need to talk about emotions? We just need to get the job done. So it's very much about the task. But now the way she actually talks about her emotions quite freely and really being able to allow others to connect with her and have that safe space as a team has been really, really awesome to have and move forward with. The other aspect, Anna, if you want to move just forward the slide again, and I'm going to throw back to Anna to talk to this one because of the fact of what we did start to notice with the team when we came to those emotions.
Yeah, so after that first session of defining our emotional culture, we threw it over to the team. What do you want to do next? Where do you want to go? And Claire and I were ready. We had all the tools. We had the canvas. We had everything ready to go. Just going, where do you want to go next? We threw control over to the group to decide where to go. And the group said, oh, we want to create an it's okay to list. So, you know, what do we have permission to do? Because I think there was a real desire to make the unexplicit explicit, you know, really understand what can we do, because I think we were still in this way of virtual working that we still wanted to know what's okay. So then we jumped into a session and we go, okay, so to feel our 5 desired feelings, what is it okay to do? And we ran this session. This was another hour session. But at the end of the session, when Claire and I were reviewing what the team put forward, we were kind of going, oh, we didn't feel that was a real it's okay to list, because some of the points put on that list were like, that's an essential. You need to do that every day. It's not okay to do it. You have to do it. So we then in the interim had a one-to-one with Jeremy. It was very well timed. And then we went back to the group. And we restructured the activity. So essentially we had all the notes from the previous one and we said, okay, with all your notes you've created, we want you to drag them to one of 3 columns. We need to. So these are necessary to fill our desired behaviors. We have to do them on a regular basis. They might require conscious thought or practice to deliver. They're absolutely non-negotiables. Or do you want to drag your comments to we should? These are good behaviors that will improve the quality of our team. We may naturally already be doing these, or they may be easy to do. Or does it sit in the third box of we've got permission to? So these are things we've got permission to do as and when needed to feel our desired feelings. These are not done all the time, but can be done in our own individual discretion and have the full understanding and support of the team. So we briefed them again and they went back to all of their post-it notes, or virtual post-it notes they did, and dragged them around and repositioned them. And we ended up with, they've only got 4 here, but 5, slides to actually show, to feel supported, we need to do this, but it's okay to do this. To feel courageous, we need to do this, but it's okay to do this. So we only did this work, not last week, the week before. So we're going to pull them into a much prettier visual for the team to share back. But these are going to be our kind of guardrails of behaviours, really, of what we need to be doing and it's okay to be doing in order to feel our desired behaviour. So it's the first time we did this kind of activity as well. Claire and I are big at playing. So we do it in every aspect of our work. So we don't mind jumping in and trying something that's a bit rough and ready. We'll give it a go and then we'll refine it. But what I really loved, and I shared this with the breakout room just before, is that I was a bit hesitant going back to do the same activity because I thought maybe the group would be a bit, oh, we've done this already, I'm busy, let's move on. But the response from the group was fantastic. They really appreciated that this work isn't being rushed over, and they enjoyed it. I remember the comments after the session, Claire, it was just, a lot of people just absolutely loved nailing what is okay and what should be done and getting everyone on the same page. And then from that point, I'll throw it back over to you, Claire.
Yeah, the other bit that we've integrated this with is our team culture canvas. As a new team coming together, we wanted to really define what are the aspects, and we've drawn on Gustav Rossetti's work of the Fearless Culture and the team culture canvas. But there was one bit was like, well, how do we connect the emotional culture deck and not see this as something separate to, but actually integral part of our team culture? And so we've actually adjusted it and been playful and said, actually, one component, and it is really about our rituals, is connecting to emotions. And so in the canvas where you have your mindsets, your emotions, and your behaviors, we've actually drawn this in as part of our team culture, an integral component. And we're working through the team now in terms of all the different pieces. So you'll see there's quite a lot of empty ones. We've only done the middle column and the emotional culture deck aspect so far. We reconvene in the next couple of weeks to complete it. But what we've also found is that the work that we've done in terms of we must has now becomes our norms and rules. So there's a really lovely synergy for us about being able to see that in the emotional culture is absolutely integral to our team culture. So it's been really interesting to work with the team and being able to actually capitalize on that initial work with the emotional culture deck.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, we're playing around with it and embedding the ECD more into this canvas. And so the work of those first 2 workshops has populated 2 of those boxes already. So yeah. Right, so moving on, so to look at, how did we get buy-in into using the ECD? And this was, I think, I don't know, compared to Erika, it feels like a little bit more of a slower burn for us. I don't know. But we kind of we did bottom up, then we did top down. So we worked with some specific teams. So we worked with some centre teams, then we got into the kind of centre support teams. We worked with the people team, and we got some wins, on the board. And then we got the interest, I think, from the Goodstart leadership team at that point. And so then we've worked with our leaders and board members in that sense, and working with defining how they want to feel. So far, our work, though, has been very much about how the teams want to feel. We haven't yet done that work of, well, how do we want our people to feel? Because we really want to actually get everyone kind of almost putting their own life mask on, oxygen mask on first. Also, we threw all our effort into making it land, as I said, with one team. So evaluate, promote, and showcase. So, I agree with what Erika said, just get in and do it. But put your whole self in with, maybe if you've not actually started, but put your whole self in with that one team or couple of teams you're doing it with. Really partner with them, because you're going to learn so much through that process, but you're going to be able to use it to showcase what this tool does as well. And also be consistent. Claire and I, feelings are our jam. So in every team meeting, in every project working group, we will bring that flavor of conversation of, okay, so how is that going to make people feel, or how do we want them to feel? We're not explicitly linking it to the ECD in that very moment, but because we're talking about the feeling piece, it makes it easier to then integrate that work into key projects and so forth onwards. So be known as the person that in those team meetings or in those project working groups to really focus on how people are feeling, and then it will become your jam and people will then come to you. So easier. So anything to add, Claire?
No, absolutely. Keep going.
Okay, so here we go. So what we've learned, this is a bit of a personal learn, but I love how we've applied it. And it came back to something Claire said about how we had someone that was a bit opposed. And often I think we walk into this work and we kind of say there are thinkers and there are feelers. We kind of put people in 2 buckets. Well, we don't, because I think we went through a bit of a journey here, Claire. There's no such thing as thinkers and feelers. There are no 2 buckets. We're actually on the same continuum here. We see a situation. Everyone sees a situation. That drives a thought. The thought drives how we feel. It drives our feelings. And then that drives our behavior. And we come back to this this model, this pitch here to if anyone comes to us, go, oh no, can we talk about how we think? Well, our thoughts drive how we feel. If people want to talk about changing behavior in a team or in the culture, we come back here. If someone has seen a situation and made an interpretation that's driven a feeling, we kind of go down this route. And I think it's really important to position our feelings alongside the thoughts and our behaviors. But when we're challenged, I'd say, Claire, You know, we kind of come back to this in our mind, and we can help that person see how feelings are not separated from thoughts. Thoughts influence our feelings and influence our behavior. So we kind of come back here and use this as a bit of a way to coach an individual through, or a team through, to see the importance of actually defining our feelings, because that will also impact our thoughts and so forth. Our top tips: make it easier for them to lead the work. You know, use time between the workshops. This is where the magic happens. We spend more time focusing on this space in between a workshop than we do the workshop itself, I would say, Claire, because the boots, we're not the boots on the ground with the teams. The team leader is. So how can we support that leader in making this a success? Do we do one-to-ones with them in the interim? What are we getting the team to do between the workshops that we've got planned out for them? I mean, as an example, for every workshop we facilitate, when they define their feelings, we then in the week or 2 week that separates to the next workshop, we separate those feelings out, put them in pairs, and go, right, give us context, define what does that feeling mean to you as a team. When they send it back to us, that's how we create that pretty poster that we then give them. So they do that work between it, and it keeps them warm or simmering on the topic. It's not something that kind of is dropped and then picked up straight again in the next workshop. Look at how you can bring emotions into your existing programs of work. So Claire and I have now been revisiting a lot of our other leadership programs and so forth, and actually looking, well, how do we bring this into that work? So we are bringing those emotional temperature checks in at the start of every workshop. When we're designing a program, Claire and I up front decide, and you know, how do we want our learners to feel over this, and make sure we're hitting on it. And it's even brought into our evaluation and our surveys as well, of how did this make you feel, so we can really compare. And this is a good one. Don't have a set plan of where to go next. We love going into a session, we define the emotions and desired feelings, but then we go, right, well, where do you want to go next? What do you want to do? Because every team is going to say something different. Have all of your tools ready. We use a mentee to do the survey with the team, and then go with them. Go where they want to, where needs most focus. It is a bit like nervy, I think, being on the end of the facilitator, because you're like, oh, where are they going to go? But it's quite fun because you're obviously going where they need to go. So don't always have a set plan. And that is it. And I have no idea about timing, Jeremy. So
it did not matter. It was
good.
yeah. It did not matter that well. I've been obviously working with you both for the last couple of months at a one-to-one level, and there's some stuff in there that I didn't know that has blown my mind. So I hope everybody else's mind is fizzing there. I've got a new saying as well: make feelings your jam. Make feelings your jam. I think we should all adopt that at some level. That's spectacular. I'm not sure if that's an Aussie thing or a British thing, Claire. But
we'll go with both.
A hybrid of that. I hadn't known about, well, I love your little poster there. Although I'm on a crusade against posters, I love those posters because they're beautifully designed. But the emotional culture commitment, that is a really beautiful thought. A really, really, really beautiful thought. So thank you for sharing that. My mind blown. I love that you are using it, or your teams are using it, when you're going through the launch of a new program and using them as KPIs. That's really special, I think. So bringing leaders together to say, if we're launching this new program, what are the emotion KPIs we want people to feel like that? That's stunning. That's really, really stunning. And the last two things I've taken from that, like the don't have a set plan piece, that might scare the bejesus out of people when you hear that. Maybe it's certainly my anxiety raises a little bit, but I think there's such a great rule. There's such a great rule in that, because the more you practice this game, like you both have been practicing your craft of this game a lot, so you're building the confidence to not have a set plan, but it allows you to do that thing, which is giving teams the autonomy to pick where they want to go next. And that is the holy grail. If you can get teams to go, yeah, I think we should be doing this next, then they're 1,000 times more likely to buy into it.
Yeah.
So having the confidence and the bravery and the courage to go, yeah, you guys decide where we go next. Like that is just, that's stunning. And it comes off in your playfulness and trying new things. So I think amazing. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Should we do some Q&A? I was going to do one more breakout room, but because of those stories taking up more time, I thought, why don't we go to Q&A? Let's finish with a couple of questions. If there are some questions, we've probably got time for 2 or 3 questions for either Erika or Anna and Claire. If you've got a question, do you want to write it in the box now very quickly? And then we can take some time over the last 5 or 6 minutes.
I have to say one thing, you know, as I hear the presentation, it's interesting. We've talked about Erika as well. Finding a buddy to talk through with has been so helpful. So Anna and I are working on this together and going, oh, that's not landing or whatever. It's been really, really helpful. So you're not on your own. Just having somebody else who talks the language of ECD just makes it work better for us. So if you've not got a partner in crime or a dynamic duo, Jeremy, we'll take that one. Being able to leverage this community and work with somebody, I think would be a real help and a support. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. If you can find somebody to go on that journey with you, like 2 apostles going out there into the abysses, it makes it that much more. It creates more meaning as well. So we've got some questions coming in. We've got 5 minutes left. So Cheryl's question is, I might have missed this part, but I'm assuming this is for Claire and Anna here, have you considered using it with the children inside the centres?
Really good question. I think it's a simmering back thought, but we're not there yet. I think we need to get a lot more teams on board with and being comfortable using themselves and using it with their teams before we use it with the children. And also, I think we've got so many resources for our children to explore behaviours, big feelings, you know. We're actually ramped up in that sense, and we've got full teams that design these resources for them. It's where we're lacking was actually our people. So it's definitely not a no. I think it's a great thought, but it's not yet. Yeah, it does bring up, just not that I'm in your work, but it does bring up this notion of if we can help our people who are caring for the young people first to have this conversation, then if it does eventually happen, you'll be in a far more position potentially. Yeah. Nice. And then a question around the tools. This is for all 3 of you. What's your preferred online tool for the planning and the visuals? So the planning and the running of the workshops, and then the visual output of it. So Claire and I use a lot of things. Look, when we plan a workshop, we use Session Lab because there's 2 of us designing a workshop. It's easy for us to then design together. So we use Session Lab for all our workshop content design to understand how a session will run. We then, in the sessions themselves, we will pull on and use Miro. So you would have seen when Claire showed the slide for the emotional culture canvas, we use Miro for that, and we also use Menti as well to quickly and anonymously use that in the sessions itself. And then afterwards, when we're creating those visuals, those posters, we use Canva.
Yeah, lovely. Erika, what was the tool that you mentioned in your presentation?
So we use MS Teams in terms of the forms for voting and sometimes the whiteboard, because a lot of organisations have access to that. But yeah, I've used Miro as well, and Menti's great, and Retro Tool. So hi Mahesh, it's a really good one too if you're running retrospectives. You can have those like virtual post-it notes and dot voting. Yeah. Okay. And then PowerPoint and Canva.
Retro Tool. So if we just search retrotool.io.
Yeah, I think it's retrotool.io. Yeah, it's a cool little tool made in Dublin. I saw someone there from Ireland.
Hi, Antonio, thank you. Yeah. Michael, in your hometown. Lovely. Nice. I've also just added in the chat there a link to an ECD Session Lab plan. So Session Lab came to me a few years ago and said, well, we want to put up open source one of the workshops. So we've put an emotional culture workshop onto Session Lab, so you can check that out and then break it apart. Yeah. Well, okay, I think that is all the questions we had. There may be more, and I encourage you all to maybe share them. And if you've got questions, put them in Slack for Anna or Claire or Erika. I think that's probably the best place for any follow-up questions. Obviously, you can be connected on there as well. So maybe we'll finish there. I don't want to dampen this, and I want to end on a high because I'm still buzzing about both of those talks. So thank you very much, Erika, Anna, and Claire, for sharing your bright spot stories. Hopefully you all are feeling as inspired as I am at the moment. There's so much gold there. my anxiety is melting away day by day, knowing that there's more and more amazing people like you all out there using this game. And I'm grateful and appreciative and thankful from the bottom of my heart for the work that you're doing, helping us humanize workplaces and bring this game to so much more than work. So thank you all who are here. Thank you to Claire and Anna and Erika. And does everybody want to pick one card for how they're feeling right now as we check out before we finish? Inspired, Paula. I love that. Nice, amazing, connected, inspired. That was the one I was going to pick as well. Amazing. Amazing, everybody. Thank you so much. We're going to do another one of these in a few months' time. We'll find more amazing speakers. If you would like to be considered to be an Elephant Rotor Meetup presenter, please drop me a note. Share the work you've been doing. Obviously, if I don't know the amazing work you're doing, we can't shine a light on your work. So please share as much as you'd like to, and go out there and continue to have fun and play with the game and hack it, pull it apart, make it work for you all. Amazing. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thanks now.